Welcome to
4Kids Flashback. Hello and welcome to 4Kids Flashback. My name is Tara Sands. I'm joined by
Steve Yurko.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We have a really fun guest today. Voice actor Oliver Wyman will be joining us. Steve, I have a feeling you two will geek it out together.
Yeah, I'm using my clairvoyance to look into the future, and I predict that there'll be common ground.
He's a great guy, really super, super talented. But I had a realization today about the podcast. There's a show that I don't think we've ever spoken about on this show. I was looking over the list of 4Kids shows. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
What could it be?
Tai Chi Chasers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's like a show.
It has never once come up.
Yeah, every time I hear about that, I'm like, that wasn't a...
What is it? I don't know anything about it. What do you know about it?
I don't know.
And it's okay if you know nothing.
I don't know a damn thing. This feels really kind of... Yeah, because this is like the Toonzai era of 4Kids. So this is like 2008. Yeah, I wasn't even
you were
tuning
done
in
at
this
that point.
Yeah, One Piece was...
That and
One Piece
Go-Go
was being produced differently.
So, yes, fair.
So
that's a very what is the word? That's a very
diplomatic.
Thank you for knowing words. Diplomatic way of that and Go-Go Riki. Those shows really never come up. I feel like Go-Go Riki we've said to be funny because it's a fun name to say.
Because if I could say anything, Tai Chi Chasers, I think. People my age that have nostalgia for 4Kids at this point, they weren't watching either. They weren't,
yeah. So it would be younger adults that might know Tai Chi Chasers.
Yeah, and even I am just like,
no,
I don't know how long did this last?
It's a major blind spot for us.
Yeah, it's like it's a title familiar, but I would have been here all night trying to guess.
What show? Yeah, because I made a print that had all of the logos that 4Kids did, and I was like, I don't think that's a 4Kids show. And then I went and looked it up, and I was like, oh no, it definitely was. But yeah, so I apologize to all you Tai Chi Chasers fans out there. Feel free to make your own podcast about Tai Chi Chasers.
Did someone complain to us? Did someone?
No one's complained at all.
Okay.
I realized it today, and I was like, I should talk to Steve about it.
I think it's even later than that. I think the show was, sorry, I can't help but like look things up. This was like airing, I don't know, Wikipedia is weird here. No, I was right.
Like 2008, 2009?
Yeah,
maybe?
2007, 2008.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah, so I apologize to all of you out there. More importantly, we have a really, really great guest today. And if you are enjoying this podcast, we always appreciate it if you could subscribe, rate, and review. You can always join I like when Steve does this part.
Our Patreon. If you become a patron, you kick us back $5. You get to hear episodes a week early, ad-free, and check out a bunch of other bonus content we're putting out there, like some videos and some other like hidden gems we're uncovering. All related to 4Kids.
Yeah, my favorite part of the Patreon is that you can join our Discord channel.
That too.
Oh my gosh. The people in this channel know everything. They're such experts. And they're being really helpful. Shout out to Matthew Voss, who's helping us get credits updated on the One Piece wiki page because we've gotten a lot of questions answered. That's a big, you guys know that's a big part of this podcast is finding out who played what roles since we didn't have individual credits. So we've solved a lot of mysteries. Actually, I should add Oliver to my Oliver, who we're interviewing today. Some of those incidental characters might be him. I should check with him on some of those sound clips that we have. So thank you, and big thanks to. So thank you to Patreon members, but thank you to the people in our Discord channel who are being so helpful. But if you have a question that we haven't answered, odds are that someone in that Discord will know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, let's hear from, we should say the web, patreon.com/4kidsflashback flashback, or our website, 4Kids Flashback, speakpipe.com/4Kids Flashback to leave us a message. Yada, yada, yada. Bada bing, bada bang. Here's Oliver. Our guest today is Oliver Wyman. We're so excited to have him here. He played a ton of roles at 4Kids. Most importantly, construction worker number 1 in Pokémon Chronicles, but also Morty in Shaman King, Cineclon Sardin. I just like saying the names of these shows on Mew Mew Power. He was in Ultimate Muscle, Baron Maximilian. He was in F-Zero. He was in One Piece. He was in Pokemon Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, Ninja Turtles, Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, everything. He worked on everything there. He was a favorite at 4Kids. Viva Pinata. Welcome to the show.
Come on.
Ollie.
Thank you so much, Tara. It's so good. It's so good to be here.
It's
so great to see you, darling. It's been too long.
So long. Oliver tried to have a conversation with me before we started rolling, and I was like, save it for the podcast. So Oliver and I were trying to, Ollie, I call you Ollie, and you don't
I am
care.
Ollie. I am Ollie to everyone but my mother.
Unless you were Pizza Rustica, and then that's a whole other person.
I got a story about that, but that's a whole nother.
Is that a story you want to talk about, or a story you want to...
Oh, yeah, no, it's a great story.
Just do it. I don't even... preamble. Just tell us the...
As we were discussing before the show, I am an uber geek, and I used to work at the science fiction mega store Forbidden Planet in New York.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And comics are my life. I love comic books. I love video games. I'm a dork. When I started working, I had to pick a name, and I picked the name Pete Zarustica, which was a name that Howard Chaykin, a comic book writer and creator, used for his character's pseudonym. And it is his favorite Italian dish, pizza rustica, which is pizza with, yeah. So for years, I used that name. And a few years ago, during the pandemic, it was the 50th anniversary of Forbidden Planet, the store that I worked in. And we had an online celebration, and 2 people showed up, one of whom, Walt Simonson and Howard Chaykin. If listeners recognize the names, these are like heavy hitters in the world of comic books. Howard Chaykin is the guy who created American Flag, and American Flag went by the name Pete Zarustica when he went undercover because it was Howard Chaykin's. And I got to tell him that I was like, I use your undercover name as my pseudonym, and
That's hilarious.
It makes me so happy.
So now he knows that Pete Zarustica has IMDb credits, which I love.
Yes, absolutely.
So I should say, too, like, we used to choose fake names for all this stuff for some reason. And my favorite was one day I was working with Sam Riegel, and he said, what name you want to use on this? You want to use something funny? And I was like, well, what's your mom's name? And he said, Lenore. And I said, well, I'd like to be Lenore. So now... Sorry, Steve, I think I cut you off.
Oh, yeah, I thought, like, well, I might as well just throw in my own flex. Yeah, I'm familiar with Walt Simonson. He was a former teacher of mine.
Really?
Yeah, great guy.
Oh my God, one of the greats.
Yeah.
I mean, the Beta Ray Bill saga in Thor is one of my favorite.
And I had no idea who he was. I just had friends say, yeah, this one class by Walt Simonson's really good. You should take it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh my God.
I wasn't a huge Marvel Comics guy, so I just hear this class is good and it fits in my schedule. And yeah, he's tremendous. Hell of a guy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
His adaptation of the Alien film is one of the best books ever. One of the greatest comics. Sorry, I had to geek out there.
Did Forbidden Planet sell manga?
Yes, they sold manga. I didn't. It was pretty much. It was fairly limited back then. It was like Akira, Lone Wolf and Cub. Not a lot of. I mean, I guess I didn't read Naruto back then. Okay, but that was out. This is the late '80s, so manga wasn't that big back then.
Well, you grew up in New York City. Is that? Am I remembering?
I went to elementary school at Toity Toit and Toit. Yeah.
So you were working at, I keep forgetting you were working at Forbidden Planet. You were pretty young when you were working there. When did you notice when anime and manga started coming in? Because you probably had more information about this than the rest of us did.
I started doing conventions for the store, and I would go to the conventions and I would find the people, the anime dealers, and I'd say, okay, give me the weirdest stuff you got. Give me the really freaky stuff. I shouldn't have asked for that.
Lots of tentacles. A lot of tentacles.
Oh my God. So have you done this with Bill Timoney yet? No.
No, you know what's funny? He didn't really work at 4Kids. He was
That's right, he didn't.
So for you
He
listeners,
preceded that.
Yeah, you guys listening, his name has come up before. He's somebody who worked for like Central Park Media, I believe, and some of the other companies in New York, and got so many of our friends working in anime, but never worked at 4Kids.
Never worked at 4Kids. Speaking of which, I got to work with Joe DeGiorgi. Joe DeGiorgi last year.
Oh, how nice! So these are all people who were kind of tangential. Is that the right word? To 4Kids, and maybe I might be speaking out of turn. Bill Timoney might have done some incidental stuff at 4Kids, and I will look that up. But he's somebody who knows anime. So you liked anime? You knew anime more than the rest of us, I guess, did.
I was a huge fan of Akira.
Okay.
I was a huge fan of the film Akira, and I have to say, I had a bootleg original Japanese copy for years, and when they finally dubbed it in English, I was so disappointed.
Oh.
Because they used all of the people that did like Super Friends.
Yeah.
And it was they're fine voice actors, but I have such associations with their voices already. It really just didn't work, and they just didn't match the intensity, the gravitas of the original Japanese actors. It's such an incredible. I mean, that's still my favorite anime of all time.
Oh, well, do you think this is a question? I guess. I mean, it's again, we're off on a tangent already, and I don't care. But this is like a sub versus dub question, but it's also a what did you see first question. So, do you think if you had seen the dub first, you might have felt differently, and because you had those Japanese voices in your brain?
Maybe. The Japanese voices were so perfect. And it was such a serious and intense story. I mean, it really is. It is my favorite anime story of all time, without question. But the American voices, they just didn't get it. They didn't have the intensity. It wasn't the thing about Akira is it really is. It's very much like Godzilla. It's an homage to the horror that they suffered during World War II. It's about the destruction of Tokyo as Hiroshima was destroyed, and it's an incredibly intense and it's an unbelievable story. It is still to this day. It's one of those films. Never mind anime. It's a film that stays with me. And the voice acting in the Japanese version was so great. It really didn't live up to it.
Not to mention the mouth flap animations in that movie are far more like specific than your standard anime, because anime tends to like a lot of just open, closed, and wide, not so wide.
Exactly.
And it's a tough film to dub. So my sympathies.
Matching the flaps is a video game. Mm-hmm. And it's sometimes it's really, really hard. I remember particularly in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it was just a lot of
it was fast,
we had to go
yeah,
really fast. We really had to like pick up the pace to get things to work.
Okay, Mr. Wyman, I want to go back in time a little bit. So when does doing voiceover, being an actor, you're living in New York City, so you have, because I know too, I was in New Jersey. We kind of had access to auditions, and I think you started pretty young like I did. Is that right?
I was in my 20s.
Okay.
When I was younger, I had done some radio and commercial stuff, but in my 20s, I was taking an acting class with a wonderful teacher, Carol Fox Prescott, and one of my fellow students there, started a serial play, an improvised serial play at the the Pyramid Club on Avenue A in the East Village. And one of the actresses there said to me one day, "Hey, I'm going to audition for a language program." Like,
Oh, yes.
ESL, English as a second language. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to do that. Can I come along?" Sure. So I auditioned for this, and I worked for Paul Rubin. Do you know Paul?
I
Remember
think
Paul?
that's how we know each other, because Paul
That's right.
was how I got into audiobooks. So,
Is that right?
And ESL learning tapes and things like that. So I think that answers the question of how you and I first met.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. We must have met at Merlin Studios or something.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, that was one of the first studios I worked at.
That's
wow.
so funny.
You guys, this is inside baseball.
It wasn't until I was at Full House one day and...
Full House, not the TV show Full House. This is the name of a recording studio in New York. Yes.
And a lovely young woman named Veronica Taylor came in, and we did a session together. And I was like, "Wow, you're really good. Do you do other stuff like this?" She's like, "Well, actually, I'm Ash in Pokémon." And I was, being the geek that I was, I went, "Oh my God, please, can I do what you do? Please, please, can I do that? I would like very much to be on Pokémon, please." And she was like, "Oh yeah, I'll introduce you to people at 4Kids." And she brought me over there, and the first role that I landed was Grill in Fighting Foodons. But when I finally got, not long after that, I was Zigzagoon in Pokémon, which made me so happy because I was like, I have 7 Zigzagoon in my game already.
Oh, so okay, that was my next question. You were already playing. Okay.
This is the thing. After Forbidden Planet, I ended up my good friend Charles Wallace, I should say, not Charlie anymore, but he was the head of the toy department at Forbidden Planet, and he ended up becoming the art director at a company called Carney Publishing. And they did a bunch of magazines, most of which were pornographic, but one of which was Cream. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Cream magazine. Cream is like...
That sounds pornographic. I mean...
Well, it's EE. Yeah, but yeah.
Okay.
It's like the band. It was...
You said it's Cream, like CREEM?
CREEM.
Okay.
And it's been around since the 60s. It's kind of like an edgy Rolling Stone.
Oh, okay.
And one of the music reviewers, a guy named Lester Bangs, was one of the true geniuses of music criticism, and I was the video game critic for Cream magazine. So I refer to myself as Lester Bangs of interactive entertainment.
So this was your job. You were playing for your job.
Yeah, and it was around that time like Doom came out. I don't know if you're familiar with Doom, but I broke the story on Doom, let the world know about that, because it was, to me, that was the coolest thing in the world. And that's so video games have been my background for years. I had been playing Pokemon for at least a year when I landed a gig on the show, and I was like, "Oh, this is my dream come true."
Had you watched the show at all?
Oh, not so much. I was big into the game.
Well, I was going to say, and the show the games were fun, I think, for all ages, as the shows were really tailored towards a younger. But
exactly. Get them conditioned early on. Got to catch them all.
As somebody who, now that we know how you feel about the Akira dub, was there already like buzz on the street about this 4Kids dub and because obviously we know that people were upset about the Americanization, but were you someone that was aware of that kind of thing?
Oh, no. And okay. I didn't have a problem. I mean, I was fine with all of the voice act, because I wasn't familiar with the property to begin with. But I have to say, and this is, I don't want the show to end without me mentioning this. My proudest moment as in anime was a few years ago, and I'm not sure about this. I tried to confirm this on the internet, but I believe I am the only American voice actor who has voiced a Pikachu.
Oh, interesting.
In the Pokemon series. Because as we all know, the original Pikachu.
Yes, there.
Oh, really?
Well,
okay, I know there's a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, but I don't consider that part of it. That's not.
Steve, help me out here.
What Pikachu are you referring to?
Okay, in the I think it was the last season in the Alolan They went to Alola, and there were Alolan Pikachus, and the leader of the Alolan Pikachus are like, they look like Raichus. They're kind of orange. But the Alolan Pikachu, the leader of the Alolan Pikachu, fell in love with Ash's Pikachu. And I can never thank Lisa enough for casting me as the leader of the Alolan Pikachus. Yeah. And so cool. And he was like, he got in a fight. He was like mad. He was fighting over Ash's Pikachu because he loved her. Because who doesn't love Ash's Pikachu?
Right. I believe that very rarely.
Yeah.
And we can confirm this. Very rarely there were times that they didn't have the sound file or something they needed.
Oh,
they
really?
needed like once in a while. So I believe Rachel Lillis in that period.
I remember that.
Because she could do anything.
Rachel still gets mad at me because I always, every time I see her, I'm like, please give me some Jigglypuff. I need some Jigglypuff. I just got here. It just makes me, it's the best voice ever.
It's so good.
It's the best voice ever. It is like, it's the most distinctive and the most like, and who doesn't love Jigglypuff?
Well, and Rachel's range is incredible. I mean, you're someone who also, like you and Mark Thompson and Rachel, have these incredible ranges. It was so fun. Lisa Ortiz and I were in Japan a year or two ago, and we got to meet the Japanese voice of Jigglypuff. And
really?
In that language, it's Purin, I believe. And but her voice really sounds like that. Like she has one of those voices that always, but Rachel's voice does not sound like that. She can just do everything.
No. Rachel, I mean, she's got one of the most incredible singing voices. She's just
so talented.
Yeah. And we did ESL for many years. Rachel and I.
Okay, so back to you. Listen, Ollie, this is not a podcast about Rachel. This is a podcast about you. I'm just kidding. So what was the first big role that you got at 4Kids? Like chunky.
The first big role. Probably Morty.
Probably Shaman King. Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, Manta. That was the big deal. And we were really hoping, because it was such a big deal in Japan, we were really hoping that it would take off. And I got to say, Sean's work on that show.
Sean Schimmel. We should just for the people at home listening.
But what other Sean is there? Come on.
Just in case. The Schimmel.
Come on, if you're listening to this, you know who Sean Schimmel is.
Fair.
Shemmy, as I call
him.
Shemmy, I miss him so much.
He's another insanely talented human being.
I think you need to, insane is the key word there.
Insane is, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And one, again, why I love him is because he was the part I was like, oh, you're like me. You're batshit. Okay, pardon my French, but yeah.
Every week since 2009, the One Piece podcast has discussed and analyzed the latest installments of the hit anime and manga series, One Piece. Now, you can see the podcast crew live and in person in New York City. It's a chance to see your favorite podcast up close and potentially win some free swag. Check out the One Piece podcast at City Winery in New York City on Sunday, August 25th at 7 p.m. Just go to onepiecepodcast.com to get your tickets today. Again, that's Sunday, August 25th at 7 p.m. at City Winery in New York City. So do you remember your audition for the role of Morty, who... We should also say we've done another version of Shaman King since. They have since gone back to Morty's original name, Monta. Right? Yes. Okay. Do you remember?
And they kept me, remarkably.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. I was like, because when I first got to 4Kids, I was, although my first role at 4Kids was Grill in Fighting Foodons, and he was a British villain, sort of deep-voiced and nasty.
Was that your choice, or did they say make him British? Do you remember?
I always want to go British. I'm an Anglophile. I married a British woman.
Okay.
But I had pretty much. I had the reputation. I was the squeaky guy.
I was the guy that did all these voices. I was the Honey Nut Cheerios bee. I was, the Fugitoid.
That was to me. That was one of the greatest moments because. And many people aren't aware of this. The Fugitoid was Peter Laird's character that he created before the Turtles. Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, they made the Turtles together drunk one night because they were big Daredevil fans. And they were like, hey, instead of the hand, let's make the foot. And then instead of like, yeah, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a gag, and it became a thing.
Wow.
I was working at Forbidden Planet at the time, so I knew about that. So I was a huge fan. And when I auditioned for The Fugitoid, remember we had 2 directors on that show, 2 or 3.
And which I'm trying to remember who
on Turtles.
I'm trying to. Well, we had Sue Blue at first.
Sue Blue. I auditioned for The Fugitoid, and the direction was basically like Anthony Daniels, C-3PO. So I was like,
oh, okay.
Well, I can do that. That's not a problem. That's within my milieu. So I started doing it, and then I heard the next week that I got the gig, and they were like, yeah, Peter Laird picked you. And I'm like,
wow.
Really? Peter Laird, because it's his baby. That was the character he created before the Turtles and put him in the show. And I was just, it made me so, as a comic geek, it just made me so happy.
Did you read that original run of Turtles comics?
Oh, I've got them somewhere in storage. I got to dig them up, but yeah. Those are probably worth buku bucks.
Do you recall hearing about 4Kids like starting up Turtles at all? Do you remember what your reaction was?
I was not, because I think I remember this was after they'd already done a video game, and I was kind of like, all right, so they've made Turtles like for kids, because it was not a kids comic at all. It was a comic for Daredevil fans. Mm-hmm. It was straight up like a Frank Miller spoof. And I was a huge fan of that stuff. So I was like, oh, this is great. But then when they started doing the video game and the TV show, I was like, meh, but I can't tell you. It's like, I wish I had, one of the best times I've ever had working on a show, because we all got to record together. Yeah. And Wayne was hysterical.
Still is.
You couldn't keep a straight face. You couldn't. I'd break every time because he don't get me started. And just being in this, getting to work with all those people at once, getting to interact and not have to match flaps. That was a real treat.
I feel like learning to dub to the lip flap and all that was great training. And I feel like once you let all those guys loose, including you, like it was just the best because they had this incredible training with all these parameters, and then suddenly they were set free.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. Mm.
And I did, a few years later, I did the Warriors video game.
I saw that on your list. I was going to ask you about that.
I got to be, I remember when they had, as a gamer, I was aware of the fact that they were developing the game as Rockstar. And I went to my agent and I said, you need to submit me for the villain in the Warriors. And he said, you're on the list already. I was like, oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. And I went and I nailed it. But the great thing was that they filmed as I recorded, they filmed my mouth and they used that for they did mocap on my lips, I guess.
So yes. You're somebody who's like a great mimic. You have a great ear for this stuff, for accents, for voices. Was that always how you were, or did you have to learn that or teach yourself somehow?
I attribute it to, I went to boarding school in Vermont, and I had nothing to do but sit around and like perfect my Popeye impression.
I'd make a monkey out of it, but nature beat me to it.
That wasn't even good.
So we're gonna thank boredom for this skill, really?
Yes.
I think you have a good ear. I'm gonna say it's partially that you have a good ear.
I think so. I do. Music is very important to me, and it's all language is all music. And the greatest, probably the greatest moment for me as a voiceover actor was being hired to be Christopher Walken's voiceover stand-in.
Wow.
I got a call. I'd already moved up to the Catskills at this point, but my reputation as a Walken impersonator had gone far enough that I got a call from Mason Pettit. I don't know if you know who he was. Mason
it was an actor in New York. Mason? Yeah. Very Mason, little, but I knew him.
He was the guy. He was the announcer for HBO who would go, coming up next on HBO.
Yeah, he and Halter Graham. Yeah, right.
He had a 7-figure income from that. He had a personal assistant. I'm like, I would very much like to be that level of voiceover actor. But great guy. And one day I get a call from him, and he's like, I'm working on this film, and Christopher Walken is in the film, but they can't afford to bring him in. He's doing voiceover. He does a off-camera voiceover throughout the film. They can't afford to bring him in to redo the dailies. So can you come in? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay. He said, can I give your number to these guys? They want to hear you're walking. So I get a phone call, and I can tell I'm on a speakerphone, and they go, all right, well, let's hear it. And I go, this watch was on your daddy's wrist when he was shot down over Hanoi. And I do the watch speech from Christopher Walken, and they're like, can you be at Magno tomorrow at 10 a.m.? I'm like, fucking hell yeah.
That's so cool.
Oh, it made me so happy. It was so great. I looped the film. John Turturro, Oliver Platt, all of these people. Edie Falco is a film called God's Behaving Badly.
Oh, wow.
Christopher Walken plays Zeus. It's never been released.
What?
It was shown. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, I may well have ended up in the final cut.
But you'll never
Walken,
know.
at this point, I don't think Walken has done a film since then. I think he's lost the plot because the dailies that I saw, the takes were like, wow, I'm crazy. I don't know what's going on.
Well, because he's almost become a caricature. His voice, at least, has become a caricature of himself, it feels like. Yeah,
absolutely.
He was in Dune
what a
Part 2,
cool impression.
so I don't know.
I still haven't seen that, and it kills me. My child was almost Duncan, for God's sake.
What did you go with instead?
Oliver.
Oh, okay. Well,
4th in a series. Collect them all.
You kind of had to do that. I understand.
No, absolutely.
Well, did you at least use the middle name?
Oh yeah, no. He's Oliver OAW.
Okay.
Oliver Aldrich Wyman III. No. I couldn't go with Duncan, Idaho. No.
Okay. Fair enough.
My wife wouldn't let me. It was and my daughter. I wanted her to be Arya. That's how much of a dork I am.
Yeah. All right.
Game of Thrones.
I never questioned how much of a dork you were, but it's good for everyone to know now.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. This is coming from the woman with the most extensive Pez collection I've ever seen in my entire life.
I know. No.
I take this as a compliment.
Yeah. My Pez collection is out of hand, and it's not even on display right now, which is such a shame. But
oh no!
I decided a few months ago that I'm not allowed to buy any new ones until they are displayed. Because
okay, but this is.
You collectors out there understand this.
Oh, God.
Because I have it's probably over 700 at this point. You know this as a collector. When companies did not cater to collectors at a certain point. So it was fun to find things. Now they cater to collectors. And it's about how fast can you get on the website? How many versions of this can we make?
So true.
And it stopped being fun.
Yep. I totally get it. There were a couple of Funko Pops and I was like, oh, I need that. And then I was like, oh, wait, this is a lifetime pursuit? No.
Yeah, I met the guy in Knoxville. I was doing a signing in Knoxville, and they introduced me to the guy who had the Guinness World Record for the most Pops. And Funko Pops. And he said he had them like 6 deep on his wall. He couldn't even see them all. And I was like, oh, now it's just a contest. Like it's money now. Like you remember that big antique building in New York that was like every floor had like different antique stores, and you could go and try to find treasures, or you'd go to flea markets. And to me, the fun of it is kind of out of it now.
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
It's insane.
Yeah. So we're all big geeks.
Oh, hardcore. And my wife has forbidden me from buying physical media. Everything must be digital.
I understand.
You know, it's got to fit in my iPad or my Xbox.
I guess we should talk about 4Kids.
Okay. Oh, yeah, no, that was a thing we did.
That was a thing we did. So, okay, so you get this role of Morty/Manta. Did you just, was this like you living your dream at this point?
I was so hopeful. I was like, please let this be the next Pokemon.
Right,
please
right.
Let this be the next, because it was such a big deal in Japan. We really thought it was going to be huge.
Yeah.
And it was, I was working with Tony.
Mm-hmm. Tony Salerno was
5-6
directing
days a
it.
week.
Yeah.
You know, and Tony and I became really good friends, and we had a really good time. And again, forgive me, you know, I know this is my interview, but Sean blew my mind on that show between Amita Maru and Rio, and I was so bummed that he didn't get cast as Rio in the remake.
Well, okay, here's my other question. Do you remember doing the uncut dub of Shaman King? Because I don't remember doing that.
Uncut dub of Shaman King for 4Kids?
Steve, tell them about it.
All right, here I am.
That's a thing?
Once
That's
again.
a thing we did.
Yeah.
You're in it. I'm in it.
At one point, 4Kids tried doing uncut versions of Shaman King and Yu-Gi-Oh! And they are complete redubs.
Whoa.
But they didn't get very
Without
far.
the censorship. Yeah.
The one thing I can remember from the Shaman King one is like, I remember you being one of the only characters that I remember cursing.
Wow.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised you forgot that.
Yeah, honestly, how could I forget that?
Morty said a damn.
You are you're a keeper of arcane knowledge. This is impressive.
It's a blessing and a curse, but yeah, I think it's why I'm here. It's why I'm here to help out.
It is a worthy skill. I'm impressed.
But no, I'm surprised because, like, you know, as we've, you know, done this podcast, like, it's been like forgotten by so many of you. It probably
It
just
really has.
I think for like the actors, and maybe it was just like another day in the office, but like for me as like a fan, it felt like such a big thing. It's like, oh, 4Kids is finally doing it. And then it was like, before you knew it, they quit.
Well, there are some outtake reels that have not been released. Someday I hope
They are
will,
hidden.
because-
Yes. We kind of know, we think we know who has them and who is holding on to them for now, but it's
I
for
know
the
who
best.
has
It's
them.
for the best. I think that some of them have not been released.
Oh, but I just hope that there are like contingency plans in place, just like that they, you know, in case anything ever happens to he who shall not be named.
Now, do you think that you are the star of some of those outtakes? Because I don't feel like I did.
No.
Okay.
Oh no.
We have fans write in and ask questions, and they always want to know if we improv'd or did any funny outtakes. And I'm like, no, we were so locked into Lip Flap. The outtakes really came later when we were screwing around. It wasn't like fun improv, or unless I'm wrong. You correct me if maybe you did.
I mean, I guess I tried to keep it to a minimum because we were being paid by the hour and I didn't want to waste time. But there were moments where I was like, oh, I'm not going to pass up this opportunity to make this joke right here. There's no way in hell.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
But there's just one,
Yes.
there's one reel that I'm just like, I can't wait. Because everybody knows the Thundercats outtakes, right?
I
We've all
don't,
heard those.
but I'm.
You don't know those?
No, but I'm
Oh my
not in the
God.
world that you guys are in. Like, the people listening probably know what you're talking about.
But the Thundercats outtakes are legendary, and I'm like, I can't wait because the Yu-Gi-Oh.
But see, a lot of
They could be up there.
a lot of this stuff doesn't age well. You know, I mean, that's the
I know,
problem.
I know.
just don't want anyone getting canceled over something stupid they said.
I know.
But or maybe they should be in trouble. I don't know. I mean, it's a tricky subject, right? Like,
I just, what can you get canceled over at this point, for crying out loud? I mean,
listen.
we're in an audio medium where it's not like anybody can be Louis C.K. here. I'm just saying.
That's fair. Okay, so the order that I think you worked at 4Kids in, so I think you booked Pokemon, and then you did Fighting Foodons and Pokemon, then Shaman King probably happened, then maybe Ultimate Muscle around the same time? Does that sound right?
Ikemon McMad. Yeah.
You
That
probably
was
did a lot of roles in Ultimate Muscle, I'm guessing, or...
I did a few. That was the most batshit cartoon I've ever worked on.
Yeah, no, that was
Far and
insane.
away.
Because
Super duper.
IMDb is very imperfect. We're trying to update it, but right here we only have you listed as Baron Maximilian. Is there another role you want to add?
I was Ikemon McMad. I was the guy. He had long blonde hair. Ikemon McMad, and this was God, I can't remember the engineer's name. There was a moment when I had to rap as this character. And not only am I painfully white, but this character was excruciatingly white. And I, rose to the occasion. And thus was the most horrible rap you could possibly imagine. And we had, I can't remember his name.
Sean Conrad?
There was well remembered.
Well, Sean was a rapper.
Yeah.
I mean, we interviewed Sean.
He was,
we
that's right.
interviewed Sean. So
you did?
Sean was a professional rapper.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's right. And Sean ended up, and it was just like, so clearly not me. So obviously not me.
How funny.
But that show was, I remember just watching that, every take before I'd have to slack-jawed, like, what the fuck is going on here?
No one can believe that made it on television.
I was twisted.
They had so many edits to do, and like
even for anime.
John
It was
Kalish,
twisted.
yes, and John Kalish in his interview said he had to have a whole conversation with Standards and Practices about butt crack. Like, he got a phone call one day, like, we need to discuss the butt crack. Like,
Yes. That was weird.
At some point, you also did F-Zero and One Piece. Were these more incidental characters, or?
These were, and I'm so sorry about the failure of the 4Kids One Piece dub.
It's okay. Norman sort of has apologized for it. So. We had Norman on, yeah.
I had a lot of fun with Django, which I thought was a real, I was like, I saw this character and I was like, no. I'm looking at this guy. I don't want to hear what the Japanese was. I want to go and to me, I had this weird, he was Steve Tyler meets Michael Jackson. I don't know how that, yeah. And then, so that's what I got, but the voice was totally different. The voice was basically Otto. Was it Otto, the bus driver from The Simpsons? Mm-hmm. Right? It was basically, I was like, oh, he had Otto's hair, so that's what he ended up sounding like.
I imagine because there were so many incidental male characters in One Piece that you probably played 80,000 roles on that show that you cannot even remember, is my guess.
Just two. It was...
oh, really? That's it?
Was,
Onion? I see Onion and Django.
And Onion.
The squeaky guy, so they got me doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of two extremes. I was either this guy or...
the squeaky guy.
I was Glalie or Medicham.
That's so funny. And then Sonic X you worked on. That came a little bit later.
I got to be Big the Cat. That was tons of fun. Big the Cat. Froggy is my best friend in the whole world.
Well, what's funny, I'm looking at IMDb and I see Lander, Customer... and Lou for Sonic X. So we're probably going to have to update some of the Sonic X stuff here. Unless there's 80 roles listed.
It doesn't even say
that
Big
I
the
just
Cat
can't see.
on IMDb. Let me see.
Well,
here.
you know what? See, IMDb is such, it's such a weird thing. When you click on it, it kind of doesn't let you see all the roles, because it's dot. So if you played 6 roles on it, I can't see them all.
Oh, yeah. That's right. You got to press the little I on the far right.
Sometimes, but I don't know if you have a special trick, Steve, that you do with this, but I can't see all the roles on.
No, yeah. Yeah, I think it's,
okay.
It's a weird thing. For me, it's
I will
clicking on that I is, you get to see, and then you got to go.
When I click on the I,
and then
and
then it still hides a bunch, and then you got to hit that arrow.
But here's what it says, Oliver, for your credits on Sonic X. Lander, Customer, Lou, Resistance Member C, Hawk, Helen's father, Big the Cat, finally. Pachacamac, sure, we all love Pachacamac. Male Bystander, the peak of your career. Killing Time Robo, E45, Boris, Secret Service, Albert Butler. Do you have any... Andrew Rannells, I'm guessing, was directing most of these episodes, right?
Oh, my God. I have pictures of him. Yes.
Little baby pictures of Andrew,
right? I miss
right?
him. I have pictures with wax lips. Oh, I miss Andrew. He was so much fun to work with.
And you've been in a bunch of different incarnations of Yu-Gi-Oh!, it looks like. And anything you want to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Related?
Yu-Gi-Oh!, I have to say, that is the role for Astro Phoenix is the role for which I have received the most attention, and Konami invited me to go to the World Championship of the Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Oh, cool!
Trading card tournament, and in Tokyo, I was a color commentator. I had no idea what was going on.
How
but I was,
cool!
Yeah, it was amazing. It was incredible, and it was like a rock. It was like a rock show. They had thousands of people, huge gouts of flame shooting up on the stage.
Wow.
It was just, it's amazing. And the people at Konami were so kind to me and so wonderful, and I was so grateful. And a whirlwind. This was what, 6 years ago, 2018. Yeah, and I.
Oh wow! So recently, and so in any of this time, did you ever play any of these card games, either Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon? Because I still don't know how to play.
I have played Duel Links, which is the digital version of the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. I'm not very.
But you've never played the card game. Interesting.
I could. That's an investment.
Yeah.
That's a thing. Back in the day, this is funny. Before I actually worked on the show, I used to be a computer consultant, and one of my clients was a man, you may have heard of him, called Lorne Michaels.
Fascinating. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So this just blew my mind. Yeah. I was a computer consultant.
What was your job exactly? I don't explain why
my job
he was your boss.
I started, I was a computer consultant, and I taught children how to use computers.
Okay.
And I was working for a family, and they had a nanny who said, I work for a family on the West Side. They could use someone like you, could teach the children. Can I give them your number? I said, sure. So I get a call from this woman, Alice Michaels, and she invites me to come up to their apartment on Central Park West. And I'm like, Michaels? Nah. Nah, couldn't be. Sure enough, I walk into the apartment and he wasn't there, but I go into the den and there's a photograph on the wall of John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase and in the kitchen at Elaine's with a briefcase full of cocaine. I'm like, okay, this must be Lorne Michaels' apartment. Wow.
And I believe he shares, he and Paul Simon have apartments next to each other, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, wait, this is the best story. So I'm working with the kids one day. His kids were great. I had so much fun playing with them, and at the time I had been working on Pokemon, so I was doing voices for them and playing games with them. And one day, one of the kids has a friend over, and the friend keeps going, "I want you to hear my demo. I want you to hear my demo." I'm like, "Your demo? You're 8. What the fuck is that all about?" And he's like, "No, you got to hear my demo." And he puts on the demo, and it's a fully produced, amazing, it's an album. I'm like, holy shit, who is this kid? I look at the demo like, Adrian Simon. Okay.
Got it.
You're Paul and help me out here.
Edie Brickell?
Thank you. Paul and Edie's kid. Thank you. So I was like,
actually, I think he was married maybe before. I might have that wrong. So, okay.
But yeah, no.
That was later, yeah.
And that was just
how funny.
I remember I one day I was sitting in the den there, and I was working on the computer, and I just hear Lauren go, "Oh, Eddie, come on up. Mike's here." And I'm like, "It's Myers, isn't it?" Yeah, it is. One day I went in there. One day the kids hadn't come home yet, and I was waiting for them to come home. The doorbell rings, and no one else is around. I open the door. It's Conan O'Brien. And I'm just like, all I can think to say is, "You're tall."
That was my initial reaction too.
He's so fucking
open the door
tall.
to Conan O'Brien.
He's
my
huge.
God.
So
I couldn't even. He wouldn't even be able to hear me. I'd be yelling up to him.
And
Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
And this is what, the mid 2000s? I take it, or
this is early aughts.
That's
early aughts. One of the great. I got to Eddie, his son, had a birthday, and they invited me to the party, and it was a Friday night. He and his friends all got to watch the rehearsal of the show on Friday night from Lauren's office, and I got to go with him. And that to me is still one of the I just remember going, wow, this is, and Will Forte was in the cast back then. I don't know if you remember Will.
Mm-hmm.
He was great cast member, one of the greatest. And I laughed so hard. I thought to myself, I hope Lauren is picking up on this. I hope Lauren is like paying attention to the fact that I appreciate how funny he is, because he is really good.
He's so good.
He was one of the most talented guys on that show.
Just to bring this full circle, the only time I've ever gotten to go to SNL, I got to go to a rehearsal on a Saturday night, like the pre-tape. And you know who was the host? Christopher Walken. I wasn't going to bring it up, but it brings it back around, right?
That's hysterical.
Right? And
that's great.
He was
so you experienced the cold of Studio 8H.
freezing, but also it was the night that they shot that sketch, because I'm a dork for Saturday Night Live. Like I'm a comedy dork. That's where I don't watch anime necessarily, but this is my dorkiness. So it was the night they shot the sketch, the Walken family reunion, where they all talk like him. So all the cast members were doing the Walken impression. It was phenomenal. We got to talk comedy, because that is my, like... Well, you know what someone said to me once? A friend of mine who's very into comedy, and he said, listen, he's like, I don't watch sports. He's like, to me, SNL is my sport. I'm rooting for them to have a good show on Saturday nights. And that's how I feel. And when they have a crappy show, I'm like, guys, come on. I'm so jealous. Because you know that, and I think they still do this, but apparently there's a table that they fill with candy. I don't know Monday about that. Night, the Monday night meeting is you got to come to the Monday night meeting with at least 2 ideas for a sketch. Right. And then you have the rest of the week to fill it out, to flesh it out. And there's a table full of candy and they're there the whole time. Just like, scarfing candy and going insane. I want that. It's like, that's what I do. That's what I would do at home anyway. Right. Well, I'm sure you listen, and people at home, I'm sorry if we're boring you, but there's a podcast about Saturday Night Live called Fly on the Wall, which was partially my inspiration for this podcast, because it's like inside baseball of that show. And that's what I wanted to kind of do with this company, with this about 4Kids, with this podcast, where it's people who worked there, people who were peripheral or however they were involved, but just because I get asked about 4Kids so often, I was like, oh, people want to hear this stuff. So So we're going to go back to your stories. Sorry, go on. Well, no. I'm so grateful to you for doing this, because it's like people need this. All the kids who watched the show 20 years ago are 25, and they're all like, wow, they're older than that. Well, sorry, 25. What am I saying? Yeah. But here's my other question for you then. Because you were such a computer guy, were you on those message boards and reading what they were talking about and saying about the shows we worked on? No, I stayed, and I should. I see. This is okay. Here is my thing. What we do, Tara, is a blessing and a curse. It's a wonderful, wonderful job. But we are actors, and you've probably heard this spiel before, but in my opinion, actors are psychic vampires. I have not heard that before. We feed on attention, applause, and adulation, and alliteration. But that's nothing. But anyway, we as voice actors, we don't get to feed. My brother is on Broadway, and he gets to hear applause. And I'm so jealous. And I do audiobooks and cartoons and video games. And I have to go online and find people who are talking about me to get that feedback. And so I spend a stupid amount of time on audible.com. You do see, and okay, so I should say too, Oliver is such a prolific audiobook narrator. That was the other reason we would run into each other so often, because we both worked in audiobooks. He's done, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. Please look up his work. But Audible, you will read some of the meanest things about yourself on there, and then some of the kindest things about yourself on there. So if you believe the good ones, you gotta believe the bad ones. First of all, I just want to say, you, squirrel, have something to pay for. Oh, right, yes. We did that squirrel book together. We did Squirrel Girl. We did you were a good squirrel. I was the evil cat. You were mean, but I think I just said things like chicka chicka choo chee 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 choo choo. I think I just said weird. I don't even remember what I said in that book. But my point was, I had a point. Let me think. Let me remember what it was. Your hair covers up nicely. Well, it's funny that you say that we look for that, because part of the appeal of voiceover for me was not having to deal with that attention and that stuff. So I find it pretty uncomfortable that in today's world with the Twitter and the Instagram, I am expected and I am required to do that. So it's funny because I think voiceover kind of attracted different kinds of people.
It's interesting. No, it's a good milieu for the antisocial actor, that's for sure.
Like me.
But yeah, and myself included. But at the same time, like I sit in a box talking to myself all week long. On Saturdays I work in a bookstore because I love books and I want to interact with humans.
People. Yeah.
So and it's not. I don't do it for the money. I'd probably lose money.
Right. But the time you're putting in there. Yeah.
But it's you know, it's and I work in the bookstore and then people go, oh, I'm going to buy this book. Oh, I recorded that book. They go, what? I'm like, yeah, no, it's, they're like, yeah. And I don't know and forgive me I have to do this because it's all I got. I found out not too long ago that Audible put out a list of their essential audiobooks, what they consider the 100 greatest audiobooks of all time. And
how many times are you on there? How many?
No, just once.
Just once?
Just once.
I'm surprised,
but
honestly.
It's a book that I recorded and I narrated, directed, and engineered all by myself. And it's like,
what book? Say the name of the book, please.
It's called it's A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. It is the saddest book anyone will ever read in their entire life. At least I can only imagine. I couldn't imagine a sadder book. It's 27 hours of me trying not to cry and failing.
Holy moly. 27's a lot. I think 24 is my longest. Yeah.
Yeah. It was 3 weeks of me sobbing.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
so
I'm not kidding when I say please look up Oliver's work. I mean, some of what he's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ollie, you do like a lot of humor books, but like nonfiction humor books. Is that still correct?
Well, thank you. It means a lot that you're pointing this out because Audible, I'm a huge comedy fan, like you. I'm a huge comedy fan, and Audible recognized my love of comedy, if I may say so, my timing, my ability to deliver comic material, and they have given me 3 books, maybe more than 3, that are autobiographies of comedians who couldn't read their books.
Oh, wow.
Artie Lang. I got to do an Artie Lang.
Oh, well, I'm a big Howard Stern fan, so for those of you at home,
because Artie Lang was too high to do the book. Sorry. And Artie's like, he's like, yeah, no, I was too high. And I did the whole thing like this because, how else am I going to fucking do the Artie Lang book?
Yeah, he's from Jersey. But
he's from Jersey, so what the fuck am I going to do?
He had different people read different chapters also, right? Is that correct?
No, it was
maybe
all
that
me.
was, I think he did 2 books. Okay. Too fat to fish, right?
No, this was...
oh, then that was his other book. Okay.
And I heard from the guys in... at JMM. Wanna Bet.
Oh, Wanna Bet. So he has 2 books. And I should also say, when we talk about Audible, yes, Audible is where you guys go buy a lot of your audiobooks, but it's also a place that produces audiobooks. So when Ollie says, like, they hired me, it's not like the website Audible that you're thinking of. It's the company, the actual company that produces the books. So that gets a little confusing. But I don't think it's a coincidence that people like you and Mark Thompson and Veronica Taylor and myself and Jonathan Todd Ross and all these people that were fixtures at 4Kids make their livings doing audiobooks now. Yeah,
no. I mean, I coach narration as well, and the thing that I tell people is when I was learning acting, the teacher always said to me, the difference between theater and film is enormous, and the difference between both of those and audiobooks is a whole another dimension, because you are literally the voice in someone's head, and you got to be really careful. You have to be very careful with that.
Well, because it's like you don't want to impose yourself too much, but you want to fill their imagination. And listen, it's also a preference. Some people like big characters in the books they listen to, and some don't.
Exactly.
And you can't please, you're never going to please everybody.
It depends. It depends on the text. It depends on the, with Hanya Yanagihara's book, it's about four men. And I wanted to distinguish between them, but I did not want to go too far. I didn't want to make them caricatures.
Yeah.
But there's a series I do, Tim Dorsey's books, and he passed away last year, and it's the saddest thing that's ever happened to me because I've done 18 of his books. It was my favorite thing to do every year, and he's gone. But every year I did these books about these two characters who drive around Florida in a muscle car, one of whom chugs coffee out of a thermos all day long and knows everything about Florida. He's a Florida-phile, knows every tiny little tidbit of Florida trivia. And the other one is completely high and makes a bong out of everything.
And one guy talks like this. He's completely out of his mind.
And the other guy's like, hey, man, can we stop at a liquor store? And it's my favorort thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, because you get to play every character. Like, we're limited, even as much as 4Kids let you do. You're right. There were two main voice types that they cast you as. Whereas in an audiobook, you are everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get to throw in Christopher Walken whenever I can.
So I want to go back to 4Kids for just a minute, and then I promise we'll let you go. But some of the later, you were there in the later years after I had moved away, but I know that the vibe kind of changed at 4Kids. They were kind of, they had less stuff going on. The years of when and you worked on Chaotic, which was sort of the big last show that they tried to do. Not tried to do, they did produce it. Do you have memories of working on that show?
I have no recollection of.
So maybe you weren't
show.
actually on that show. What about Viva Pinata? That was another show that people recorded together, right?
Viva Pinata, I do recall. It was concurrent with the game release. And as a big gamer, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it wasn't a game I was gonna buy, but I was like, oh, I'm in this. I guess I'll check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was It just seemed like the properties, there wasn't.
Not everything can be
stuff.
Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah. Not or Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon were the most. I did have a lot of fun on Shaman King, I should say. But Yu-Gi-Oh, getting to play villains on Yu-Gi-Oh. Siegfried von Schroeder. The most, I got to chew the scenery on that one. That was so much fun. That was great.
How was it getting the email or the call to return to Shaman King? And what was your experience working on that reboot?
Well, I was thrilled. Absolutely, over the moon that I'd be working on a project that was going to be on Netflix, and it was a show that I loved.
It didn't hit the way I think we hoped it would.
No, it didn't hit the way we think it hoped it would.
Yeah.
It didn't pay the way we thought we hoped it would.
Yeah.
Forgive me for saying that.
No, it's fair to say. I mean, listen, I think something that we've gone back to on this podcast a lot is that we've never been compensated monetarily the way that, for how big some of these shows were. I mean, listen, I think there's also something weird that goes on with how much any company, not just Netflix or 4Kids or whoever, pushes certain shows. And I didn't see any advertisement for Shaman King, and I was bummed about that.
Yeah, no.
That's a big Netflix problem, to be fair. I don't know how things get noticed on that service.
Where can they advertise? People are not watching anything. If they're watching Netflix, they're not watching anything else. And you can't put the ads on Netflix because nobody wants that.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have ads.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah, there's different tiers now. So they could, hypothetically, there is a way to do it. But
I will always pay to not watch commercials.
Yes, yeah. I understand that. So, it was so much fun to return to, it felt like going back to an old friend to do these voices again. Yeah. It is a bummer when you don't feel like it's getting watched. So I guess the last thing, we're not totally sure if you worked on Chaotic, so probably the last thing you worked on over at 4Kids was
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Was Yu-Gi-Oh! It was not Viva Pinata. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
There was some, yeah.
It was sad when that all went away. Yeah.
Oh, believe me. No, I miss 23rd Street.
Yeah.
was fun.
So tell people what, aside from the audiobooks, you said you're coaching. Where can people find you if they want to do audiobook coaching with you or things like that?
Reach out to me online. I'm bad at social media because ADD is a crippling disease. But here's the thing. I have been so busy recording. The last 6, 8, 9, 10 months have been. I've been recording a series, a Japanese light novel series called Mushoku Tensei, which is also it's an anime and a video game. It translates as jobless reincarnation. It's an isekai, if you know what that is.
With the long titles. Yes.
Yes. And this was done under the name Cliff Kirk, although for some reason the editors heard it as Cliff Kurt, so that's how it shows up on Audible.
Wait, you mean your narrator name was Cliff Kurt?
My narrator name, because it's fairly unseemly. It's about a kid
I see. It's a little dirty, is what we'll say.
It's a little dirty, and like I did a Dave Pilkey series called Ricky Ricotta for little kids, and I didn't want little kids going, "Oh, look, here's a cartoon cover." No, that's not for you.
Yeah. This happens to a lot of us where we should explain, like, because I get asked a lot why we have pseudonyms and things like that. Yeah. It's often because of that, because I know that if they look up my name, they see Pokemon. Once in a while, I'll do like a romance novel. And again, it's not like that it's so bad or so filthy, but I'm like, you know what? I don't need a kid to see, like, I'll see the cover suddenly and I'm like, oh, I don't want a kid to find that if they.
We have followers. There are, and I don't have an issue with this, but like there's a lot of kids on the spectrum that write to me all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to go, "Oh, I love him," and then listen to that. Like, no, that's not for you.
Right. No, you're 100% right. And I hope that we get you at some, like, people can meet you at conventions at some point. You guys at home listening.
Yes. We need to talk more about this, because that's what I need to do more.
But I'd love to tell our audience that I know you guys sometimes will say to me, "Why doesn't so-and-so do conventions?" If there are people you want to meet, write to your local conventions. You can usually find a contact page on these convention websites. It's very easy to do, and say, "Hey, I'd love to see a Yu-Gi-Oh! Reunion," or "I'd love to see this, and I'd love you to include Oliver Wyman, and I'd love you to include," because...
And also, I just want to say that the events that I've done with Konami are the most heartwarming, the most fulfilling. I cannot tell you how much it means to me, because like I said, we're actors. We need to hear people say they like us. And when I go to these events and people say, you made my childhood, and I'm like, it means so much to hear that from people.
It does.
I've connected with so many people on social media whom I've met at events, and I'm so grateful for all the kind words that people have for us.
You know what's interesting that you say that, and Steve, I'm sure you understand this too. Like, I always think when they meet me, they're going to want to ask me questions and things, but often it's that they want to share their story. That they'll tell me their life story, and it's very kind, and that they're trusting me with this information.
It's heartwarming. It really is.
But it's also like, I was with someone recently at a convention who hadn't done many of them, and he was emotionally drained because he didn't realize, like, because you're a vessel for their whatever hardship they were going through at the time that they saw this show, or whatever their memory is. This nostalgia is so strong, and you're emotionally zapped because if you're a nice person, you engage and you listen, and
empathy,
I know you are. Yeah,
empathy is exhausting. It really is.
It really is.
But it's so fulfilling.
Right.
The people. There was a young girl who came to me at the last Konami event, and she spoke about how much my character meant to her. I cannot tell you. And I've contacted her on social media. It means so much to hear from you people. It really does. It really does. Because like I said, we're performers. Yeah. We need to know that you guys appreciate what we do, and it means so much when you reach out to us. So
and it helps inform what we do too. Because again, when we're recording this stuff alone, if you can picture that girl watching this show, it informs your performance. It does. And it makes you work hard. I mean, you're a hard worker, and, most of us are, but I think it just adds another layer to it all. Oh, that was very touching. Thank you, Oliver. We'll put a link in the show notes to Oliver's social media that he probably never checks, but we will put some links to maybe his Audible page where you can find all his books. And thank you, Ollie.
Thank you so much, Tara and Steve. You guys, I thank you for doing this.
Oh, that was a really fun interview. We took a lot of side ventures down different comedy roads and stuff, but I liked it.
Yeah, but it's all parallels. It all related to, it's each other. I think, just working at Forbidden Planet, which is, not that I haven't thought about it in a while, but I visited that store very often when I was still in New York and haven't been there in so long. Yeah, but comics,
They had a lot of figures in that store from what I remember.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. Because I remember they moved. They only moved like a block over, but I've been to both locations, but it's been a while. But
yeah, again, it goes back to the New York of all
it's like
of
it's the
this.
New York thing, also with like the Lorne Michaels stuff too. It's just that
was fun. That was like, again, I'm sorry for those of you who are not Saturday Night Live fans, but that was fun for me to listen to.
Yeah, for me as well. It's like it's the essence of your average 4Kids Flashback episode. It's all in there. The New York stories. But what's nice about Oliver was how familiar he was with animation and anime before 4Kids. So he's not saying like it's like it wasn't a requirement, but he is like, I would say maybe one of the few actors who was very familiar with the stuff.
Yeah, he and Wayne were both and still are huge comic book people. Like when we go to a convention, sometimes Wayne will find the comic book store to go to. But like we said about collecting, again, you can find anything online, so it's such a bummer. Like, Wayne went to this big comic book store when we were in Colorado, I believe, or somewhere like that, and they didn't have it at, like, what the specific thing he was looking for, because he preferred to buy it in a store as opposed to going on eBay. And I feel like that too.
The thrill of the hunt, the thrill of the chase, but also giving your money to small businesses like that. Yeah. It's a shame. Mm-hmm.
What are your, Steve, I haven't asked you this before. What is your collection focus on? Or is it really all over the place?
If my collections work a lot like how my brain operates, where it's just too much of everything. What is it's like my taste and everything. It's like tonal whiplash sometimes. It's like I like a little bit of everything, but One Piece is a huge thing. But there's
what's the crowning jewel of your One Piece collection?
The crown
jewel of it. Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything in particular I have that's like super. I'm sure there is, and super rare. I have
you can't see, but Steve's looking around.
I have a lot of figures and stuff.
Okay, so it's like when I get asked what my favorite character is. Like, I don't really have an answer.
I do have a shrine to my favorite character of the series that's above my desk, and that doesn't even fit all the stuff I have of that character now.
Who is your favorite character?
Sanji from One Piece.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and I still like Buggy.
Yeah, Buggy's so good. Buggy's
so
great.
good. And that actor has been doing conventions, and he's so cute. I'm so boy crazy. It's so
from
bad. The actor from the live action.
Yeah.
He's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I should make a shrine. I probably should not.
Shrine is like that term gets thrown around pretty loosely, but like. Yeah, there's a wall shelf, I'll say. I just call it the shrine.
Shelf. Okay.
I like the alliteration too. And I collect too much stuff. But I will say like I would say like a lot of like figures especially, but so many other things, it caters to an older audience. Like, you have disposable income, and we're gonna make everything seem like, oh, this is like a limited thing, and someone's like, well. And it's like, oh, if I get this one, then I got to get the other one too.
Right.
I got to complete a set. Yeah.
And I've been dealing with this thing recently. I finally there is a character in Jujutsu Kaisen that I voiced that I kept pre-ordering the figure. It was a Von Presto figure. Mm-hmm. And is that the right company? That's a thing, right?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And why does the release date get pushed a million times? And I was like, it's already in Japan. And then I finally just found it pretty cheap from Japan and ordered it because I was like,
curious what store you ordered it from.
I don't know. I could send you the link. I don't know.
I'm getting I'm getting certain vibes from one store I could think of.
Oh, from the Japanese store or from the American places that kept pushing back?
Yeah.
Oh, it was multiple stores. Yeah, I think GameStop, GameFly was one. GameFly said they had it, but it was multiple, and they kept pushing the release dates back. So I kind of understood your pain.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just want my character. So I just got it in the mail today. I got my Udahime figure. I was very excited. But yeah, Oliver is definitely someone who understands this world.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really fun interview. Super, super talented. You guys, I'll put links. Yeah.
And something I didn't realize, or something I didn't mention during the interview, but, kind of like what led to him working with 4Kids was meeting Veronica Taylor and just finding out she was in Pokemon. He's like, I want to be in Pokemon. And now in the present day, in the current Pokemon series, he plays a reoccurring character. So it's funny.
I didn't know that.
Was it Director Clavel? Maybe that's how you pronounce it.
Oh,
like
interesting.
Clavel.
Oh, that didn't even come up. Yeah. Hopefully he'll be on the convention circuit. You guys will get to meet him because again, I don't know all the roles he's played because his IMDb is very, very long. But he's a great guy.
And if you haven't listened to every episode, and if you're wondering why I'm here, that's why I'm here.
You know so much. It's not the only reason you're here.
No, it's my specialty.
I'm not sure when this is going to air, but I had to record my first episode without Steve. I'm not sure if this will. It happens, but it was so much less fun. I still enjoyed it because it was a great guest, but I really missed having you here. So when you say things like "that's why I'm here," it's like, no, you're here for so many reasons. And
thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Using Oliver's episode, we're building me up. We're building up Tai Chi chasers. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what this episode is about. What I was going to say is I'll put links to some of Oliver's work and his social media in the show notes. Just so you guys know, I don't know that I always say that. There are always links in the show notes to their social media if they have one. More for the actors than for the staff because they don't always want followers like that. But if there's any pertinent information, like in Dan Green's episode, I made sure to link to his podcast and things like that. So definitely check those out if you haven't been. And our websites. What are they, Steven?
4KidsFlashback.com. Spelled with the number 4, not the word 4.
Not spelled with the number 4, just the number 4.
Yeah.
Don't spell it.
Yeah, I realized, that was an oxymoron. I just said or something.
Jumbo shrimp.
With the number 4.
And patreon.com/4KidsFlashback, speakpipe.com/4KidsFlashback. We also
We're all over any social media. We got something.
All at 4Kids Flashback. We're even on Threads. We're on Blue Sky, but I barely post on those, I'll be honest.
Fair.
Listen, you guys, I want to be honest with you. Can I be honest with you? I barely post on Threads. I even post on LinkedIn sometimes.
I don't know who does. I'm surprised. And every time I check Threads, it's by default, it's the suggested posts. So you see the ones that actually get likes. So sometimes I'm thinking, oh, wow, people are on here. And then when I go to the people you're actually following, and then it's like, oh, it's like, here's a few recent ones. And then this last post was from 3 days ago.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to give up on Threads.
Maybe the world has. I don't know. I
think the world has given up.
There's too much. I think now there's too much social media and too much of it too many streaming services. Yes, and they're all trying to do the same thing. So now it's not unique anymore. So
do you think they're all going to just at some point merge?
I wouldn't be surprised. I forget if we said this on air or not. We're talking about feeling our age. I don't know. I'm feeling my age at this point.
Okay. Which is not, you're not at a big age, but there is like, I think after 30, you start.
I think that's what it
general.
originally was supposed to be, is I think like people above, I think once people like got into their 20s, like I think past generations, like, no, that's when you kind of just, you get a job and you do adult things, and adults, me and my fellow adults now, we're just still like nerdy just like we were when we were kids. So it's a weird future.
Yeah. Well, it's weird to feel like there's some days. Well, full disclosure, today we are recording this in April. I don't think it's going to air for a few months, but today is tax day. And so I will not bore you, but I felt like a super adult today. And then other days I feel like a child, which is such a weird way to live.
I feel like a child when it's tax day because I just pay someone else to do it. I
do too.
Numbers hurt head. You figure it out.
But I thought that I had filed for an extension because some of my paperwork comes in late. I didn't know that I still had to pay an estimate by today. I thought by filing the extension, I had a couple more months and again, I was fine to pay it. It wasn't like I wasn't prepared, but all of a sudden today I luckily opened up an envelope from my accountant with stacks of things that I had to get to the post office and mail today. And I was like, that's not like me. Like, I'm very responsible with stuff like this. But I'm also mad at him because I feel like that should have been in an email from him, like, make sure you open your mail. Yeah. Okay. I can't imagine anyone wants to hear this.
No.
For those 3 of you that are still listening.
My point just being is like, it reaches a point where it's like, if I see someone's opinions about a show I like that I don't like, I have to realize, I'm like, this person is 15 years younger than you. It's like, it's a weird, like I said, it's a weird future we're living in. So
I was watching TV with the 4-year-old this past weekend, and I found myself getting annoyed when he couldn't appreciate the things I wanted him to appreciate. I was like, no, this is a really good show. And he's like, I like this. And I was like, but that's not good.
You're wrong.
You're wrong. You have terrible. No, he has pretty good taste. He does love Spirit Rangers, and I think that's good. But yeah, I eased him into his first anime by showing him a show called Dino Girl Galco. Yeah, I think I said that right. And it was so cute because I wasn't showing it to him because I'm in it, because I'm barely in it. Like, and his parents were trying to, like, that's Cousin Tara, listen. I was like, no. That's not why I'm showing it. Like, I'm like, he's too young to understand that. I just want to maybe start easing him into anime.
Right.
But he liked it. It took him a minute to get into it. But then he also didn't want to go to bed, so he kept asking for another episode. So it's hard to tell if he loved it or if he just didn't want to go to bed.
I mean, I think we've all been there, no matter what age.
I'm the opposite. I can't wait to go to bed. I'm like, bring on bed. And that note, I'm going to go to bed. But we will.
Catch you next time.
4Kids Flashback is a production of Maji Media, hosted by Tara Sands and Steve Yurko.
Producers are Zach Logan, Tara Sands, and Steve Yurko.
For more information, go to 4kidsflashback.com. That is the number 4. And if you worked at 4Kids and have a story you want to share, please email us at 4kidsflashback@gmail.com.
You can find us on social media at 4Kids Flashback, and to listen early and ad-free, head to patreon.com/4kidsflashback. For podcast merchandise, find links on our website and Linktree.
As they say on every podcast, if you liked this show, please subscribe, rate, and review, and tell your friends, or 4. If you want to check out other Maji Media podcasts, go to Maji, MAJI.media. Thanks for listening.